Okay, this is actually the first section of the notes that is part of Calc 1. And we got to this section here, which says related Sage code. This is optional. It's not required. I also want to go on to say that you're not to use this to do the homework. However, you should make some attempt to learn how to use a computer algebra system. All right, let me read this to you. I'm providing a copy of my Sage input. That's right below here. For students wishing to use Sage to solve mathematical problems, be aware that all students should consider learning how to use a computer algebra system. That's usually abbreviated CIS or just simply CAS. Sage is a great CAS option. I'll tell you the main reason it's great is it's free. Furthermore, I want to emphasize, not only is it free, but it's used around the world. If you went to any major university that had a STEM-related program, they would certainly have users at that school or at that university using Sage. It's a big product, all right? However, you need to learn how to solve simple mathematical problems by hand, and that's the intent. Although we do use computational devices, we do want to point out you need to learn how to do things by hand. However, as you move forward, most problems can no longer be done by hand. They're that difficult, all right? So that's why you want to start using tools to learn. But before you learn to use a tool, you have to have some basic knowledge of how things work. When you understand the basic stuff that we're giving you, then you can start to extend it to using what's known as a computer algebra system. We're going to do what's called a low bar here. What's the low bar? You're going to click on this link over here. Let me do that for you. It'll bring you to a website. And on this website, someone's, oh my God, I don't know where to start. Well, we're going to try to give you, again, the low bar version of what you'd like you to do. Now, I'm going to say over here, you know, it says CoCalc Instant Sage Worksheet. I'm going to click on that. It's going to launch an instance of CoCalc, which allows me to use Sage online. All right, that's what I want to do. I'm going to create a new project. A new project, let's call it, test. I'm going to create the project. This little red thing up there, they're trying to get me to pay for this option over here, which is to use somebody else's computer. And again, we'll talk about it a little bit later today. So I really don't like using somebody else's computer, nor do I want to pay $3 a month for that privilege. But anyway, they're going to let you use it for free. All right. Let's take a look here. What are we going to do? Well, let's create a file now. And what do I want to do? Oh, Sage worksheet right over here. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to type in these codes for you, though. Reset. As we go through the semester, you're going to see me do this a lot. And what I'm going to claim what reset does, it basically creates a very clean sheet of paper for me. All right. Now, when someone says, what do you mean a clean sheet of paper? It basically purges any information that Sage has left over from another computation. Most students would say, how do you run that code? Most students say, oh, just hit the return button. If you hit the return button, nothing happens though. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to claim that you need to hit the shift button and the return key at the same time. So I'm now pressing the shift button and now I'm going to hit the return. Now you notice it turned green and started blinky, right? What is it doing now? It's working there. Now T is a var. I'm going to type this in for you. Shift return. All right. Y is a function of T. Whoops, sorry about that. I typed it in wrong. Y is a function of T. The equal sign is called an assignment operator. We're assigning this function Y of T, the square root of 6 star T. Now I realize something to do when you put the star in there. If you don't put the star in there, Sage is going to say it's an error. I'm going to show you that right now. So what's this thing? The square root of 6t plus 7. I'm going to hit shift return and watch what happens. It says there's an error. Now, by the way, if you read through the error, it does tell you some problem over here. And the problem is you don't have a star down there. Let's put that down. So I'm going to retype that in. And let me do that. I'm going to retype that in now, okay? Watch this, star. Shift, return. The error message went away, and now I got y of t. Now I'm going to make another function. dy is a function of t, and it's being assigned. Well, you know what? A lot of times people get tired of typing things in. So I'm just going to copy this whole line, and I'll go through that with you. Remember, shift, return. All right. All right, let's do this one over here. And so I wonder what this one does. And we'll talk through it. It says evaluate dy at 1.1. The dot end notation, this is Python code. It's telling not only do I need to compute dy, the function at 1.1, but the dot end notation is now saying approximate it. Let me hit shift return. Now it's computing it, and it computed the number there. So forth and so on. And someone says, what's this all about? Well, this is about your past. What's your past? Attending lectures, paying attention to those lectures, going through the examples that we go through in lecture, and then the examples that you did in your own. This should be a familiar problem to you. All right, I'm going to close this out. And this is the last time you're going to see me using this product. What do you mean that is the online version? Let me repeat what we did. We clicked on this link here. We got to the Sage website. And what I did was I launched a CoCalc Instant Sage worksheet. Right. When I do that, though, I'm running Sage on somebody else's computer. And I don't want to do that anymore. So what I'm going to recommend, you can still do this. This is the low bar, but some students want to install the software. I want to install the software. All right. I do know from personal experience, though, a lot of students have a very difficult time installing software. They can't do it. All right. Again, I want to emphasize that if you're going into computer science, though, you should probably learn how to install software. Let me briefly go through this. Download 9.2. They give you a bunch of download websites over here. Now, of course, we're in North America, and we're closest to Cambridge, Massachusetts. I'll click on this. And someone says, what do I do here? Well, a little reading might be helpful. I'm running an Apple computer, OS 10. I would click on this. If you're running Windows, you'd click on this. If you're running Linux, you'd click on this. Right? Those other operating systems you may not be familiar with, but there's other ones. These are the three main ones: Linux, OS 10, and Windows. Well, I'm running Apple. I'll click on this over here. And this is where most students have confusion. Now, the Apple computer runs on three different processors now: Intel, PowerPC, and also the Apple Silicon right now, which is the M1 chip or higher. Now, I'm going to say Intel. All right. And this was something to say, I don't know what to do here because there's so many things going on here. What do they want me to download? All right. Well, again, I would say a little bit of reading might be helpful. So it goes over here. It says, pick, if available, your choice of the Sage distribution. So I'm going to read it. It says, the star app.dmg to get Sage as a Mac OS 10 application that starts like most other Mac applications. Well, that seems like most appropriate for me. However, there's another choice. It says to get the full Sage distribution for traditional Unix command line use. Now, if you're familiar with that, that may be an option for you. But I'm saying most students, they would want to do this thing over here. They want to get an application that runs like it runs on their computer. Now, whether you're using Windows, Linux, or OS 10, this is typical. So what do? You look through this, and you're going to look for, well, that's not it. That's like a tar thing. I don't know what that is. I'm looking at this over here. I'm wondering, is this what I want? Not really, because I'm not seeing the app.dmg. I'm seeing it right over here. So what you're going to do is click on this. Again, if you're running OS 10, here's how big the file is, though. It's huge. It's a huge file. All right. Now, when you do that, you'll get a double clickable application. All right. So I'm going to close it out, indicating if you want to install it, install it. If this is too much for you or you're overwhelmed by this, what you're going to do is you're going to do the low bar version. Let me point out what the low bar version is for you. You're going to do the CoCalc Instant Sage worksheet. That's all you're going to do. Super simple to do. If you're having trouble, though, you need to come by and see me during office hours, please come by and see me during office hours. I'm going to close the web out now and saying that's the last time I'm going to do that. I'll let you come by during office hours and saying, hey, could you go over that again? And I'll go over it as many times as you need. What I like to do when I'm doing this code over here is I like to run it on my own system. And I have a preference for using a terminal. All right. I'm actually running Sage on a terminal now. And I can type these commands in. I don't need shift return, just return. It resets it. T is a variable. I'm just typing the same thing in. That's all I'm doing. I prefer doing this because no one's asking me now to support their computer. Because when you're on CoCalc, you're using someone else's computer. Whose computer am I using now? My computer. All right. Now I'm getting a little tired. I'm going to start copying it. I'm going to copy this in. And, I'm going to type in, y of 1 now. Now someone says, why are you doing that? That's not in the instruction. I'm trying to learn what this does. And what does it give me, the square root of 13? Well, that makes sense to me. And why is that? Well, the square root of 13, if I put 1 down, it would be 6 plus 7 is 13. Let me try y of 1.0. Let's see what it does. And I get an approximate there. All right. Now, why is that? I'm telling Sage to use a decimal, and that's really the square root of 13 approximately. All right. Now, let me just copy this one down over here. Doing a copy paste. And that's a formula. It says, y of t. I'm sorry. I copied something wrong there, didn't I? I didn't copy the whole thing, and I apologize. I just noticed that because I don't want to redefine y. All right. Hit return. Now, if I put D1 down, it's going to confuse some students when I do that. You get something. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I meant dy. Sorry about that. All right, let's see what I got over here. Let me clear. I think I missed something. dy. What? I'm getting it again. I'm going to go back over my code. And I'm wondering what I did wrong there. Ah, look at that. It's a really long error message. At the very bottom, it says there's a division by 0. No kidding. Let's put dy down and see why that is. What does it say? It assigns. And at the very bottom of that, the division is t minus 1. If I put 1 down, what would you get? A division by 0. I don't want that. Let's try dy of 2. And this might confuse you too. No, it says square root of 19 minus square root of 13. I don't think I wanted that. Let me try dy 2.0. It looks really weird to me. Looks really strange to me. All right, I don't know why it looks strange to me, but I see it looks like a square root. Well, let me type this in now. Dy of 2.0 dot n. And I want to tell you what this is doing. This is forcing Sage now. It's forcing Sage to do the computation of the square root of 13 and all the arithmetic involved. And what do you get? You get a more understandable number there. Now, granted, someone says, oh, this is so complicated, I would rather use a different system to do this. We're not denying that. You can use whatever you like. We're not saying you need to use this. And I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, this is what I'm going to be showing you. Now, you might say to yourself, well, I can do this with my calculator. Do it on your calculator. As time goes on, though, I want to claim to you, you're going to eventually get to a school where they're forcing you to use a particular type of computer algebra system. For example, if you get the NJIT, at least I know this is true in the past, they made their students use MATLAB. All right. I got to tell you something about Sage, though. Sage does MATLAB. I got to tell you, the skills you're going to acquire by following what I'm giving you in these optional Sage tutorials is going to translate really well to when you transfer to another school. And you're going to be well prepared, all right, when you transfer to school, if you can use a computer algebra system. One of the biggest complaints our students have when they transfer to NJIT is they tell their instructors, hey, the students at NJIT had 2 years advantage on me because they've been using a computer algebra system for 2 years, and you never told me about a computer algebra system. Well, if you've taken me from Math 100 forward, that's 100, 119, 120, 121, and 122, you would see me going through Sage code. I'm going to say it's in your interest to learn how to use a computer algebra system. And Sage is a very good example of a computer algebra system. It's based on Python, and Python is a language you should also become familiar with. All right, so just an introduction. You want to take a look at that and then look over the problems that you did and see how well that goes. All right. You also might see embedded in my notes, periodically I'll write Sage code down for students that want to use it. All right. As the semester goes on, though, I am going to be talking about different computer algebra systems, right, including web-based ones, not only CodeCalc online, that's a Sage Math, but also I'll be talking about Wolfram Alpha. That's another really good computer algebra system that's available online, but I'll also be talking about commercial products like MATLAB, Wolfram Alpha, Wolfram Mathematica, so forth and so on. There's a ton of products out there. And by the way, when I said there's a ton of them out there, what's the advantage of Sage? It's free. It really is. You put it on your computer, you'll have a really nice computer algebra system, although it's huge. All right, thank you.